So is offshore banking and asset protection for tax evasion and helping criminals hide money? Welcome back, this is The Business Guy. And when we post videos on offshore asset protection, there's a minority of people who make comments such as, yeah, that's a great way for tax cheats and crooks to hide money. So today we're diving into this topic that's often misunderstood, offshore banking and asset protection. We'll also explore trust companies and offshore trusts used to shield assets from lawsuits. Now here's the big question we need to address. Are these services just for tax evasion and helping criminals hide money? Well, the short answer is no, and here's why. Let's go ahead and get started. And so we can see each other again, please click subscribe or follow. Let's set the record straight. Offshore banking and asset protection aren't inherently illegal. They're simply financial strategies available to anyone concerned about excessive liability. The truth about offshore financial services. Firstly, it's important to understand that the world of finance is not the Wild West. There are stringent rules in place to prevent illegal activities. At Asset Protection Planners, our foremost commitment is to operate within the legal framework and adhere to the highest ethical standards. Second, why do people set up offshore trusts, use offshore bank accounts, and so on? It's not to save money in taxes. These structures are, for U.S. people anyway, tax neutral and don't increase or decrease taxes. Moreover, nowadays, offshore banks report all income to the U.S. government. So there is no more hiding from the tax man. It's also not to sock away money from the illegal drug trade. I've been setting up offshore accounts for 33 years, and I've seen a consistent rejection of clients unless they can prove that the source of funds is legal. After all, these banks will lose their licenses and/or suffer other consequences that we'll talk about later if they accept dirty money. Okay, so if it's not to squirrel away money from the police or the government, why do people do it? Well, in our case, it's to protect their money from the ravages of lawsuits. And if you think lawsuit decisions are fair and right, if someone loses, they should just open up their bank accounts and let their opponents shovel as much money as they can from your bank account to theirs, think again. Most lawsuits settle before they ever see the light of a courtroom. Why? Because even if someone is 100% right, most people would rather spend $200,000 to settle a case and get it over with than spend $200,000 on lawyers and fight the case just to have an uncertain outcome in the end. So asset protection is not just to protect assets after somebody loses, it's also to discourage the other side from suing you in the first place or stopping the case once they know you have asset protection. So now we'll talk about 3 things we do to weed out the bad guy. Then I'll talk about the individual role of the banks, our organization, and our offshore trustee law firm that acts as the trustee. The triple security shield, know your client or KYC, due diligence documents. We, the banks, and our trustee company law firm meticulously screen every potential client. Background checks, source of funds verification, and legal history reviews are standard procedure. Any whiff of illegality and the door is firmly shut on that prospective client. Compliance is king. We operate under strict international and local regulations. Tax evasion attempts, we refuse them. Unethical activity, they won't be our client. Our reputation and licenses are on the line, and we take compliance seriously. Ethical guardians. Our team of licensed attorneys isn't just qualified, their careers depend on upholding legal and ethical standards. They do their best so that no shady characters get past them. Now let's talk about the individual roles of banks, our company, and our offshore trustee law firm. The role of the banks, asset protection planners, and our trustee law firm plays crucial roles in ensuring that offshore banking and asset protection services are used ethically and legally. We scrutinize clients, conduct background checks, and refuse to work with individuals or businesses with illegal sources of funds or those involved in criminal cases. When a client approaches our firm, our first step is to do a comprehensive background check. It isn't just a cursory glance. We thoroughly scrutinize the source of their funds and their financial history. It's a rigorous process designed to weed out any legal activities. If there's even a hint of criminal activity, involvement in government lawsuits, or an intention to evade taxes, we dig into the matter and if we feel too uneasy about them, we refuse them as clients. Do some fall through the cracks? Sure they do. One of our clients from Alaska about 10 years ago told us he wanted to set up international companies and bank accounts to run his business and to protect his assets from lawsuits. Perfectly legal when done right. We, the banks, and an outside agent did thorough background checks, and he came out clean. A year later, we found out that the client tried to use his companies that we set up to avoid paying his taxes. In other words, he took the profit from his business and squirreled it away in an offshore account within an offshore company and didn't report his account to the Internal Revenue Service. So the government used me as a witness, so I was a witness for the government, and they flew me up to Anchorage, Alaska, put me up in a hotel, and they paid for everything. And I was a witness against this particular client. I didn't have much choice in the matter, but they could see what we were doing was legally compliant, but the client used our structures to break the law. And as a result, ended up in hot water. So we didn't want to be involved in those hassles, even though the government knew in this case we were totally innocent. It's not worth it to us, so we do our best to weed those type of people out as best we can. And it's not just us, banks, especially those offering offshore services, are under constant surveillance. They risk losing their licenses if they accept money obtained through illegal means. So this isn't just about a slap on the wrist, it's about staying in business for the banks. We've had clients with similar names to people who got into hot water, so we often have to prove to banks that our client is a good guy, not the bad guy that happens to have a similar name. And let's talk about the role of U.S. correspondent banks. These are banks such as JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, that offshore banks must use as conduits in order to move money in U.S. dollars. They are the gatekeepers for the transactions in U.S. dollars. If an offshore bank gets involved in illegal activities, these correspondent banks can sever ties, effectively crippling the bank's ability to deal in the world's primary currency. In fact, we saw this happen to a bank in Latvia about 12 years ago, where the officials at the bank got too loosey-goosey with screening and lost their correspondent bank. I know because we set up accounts for clients there. They stayed in business, but the bank was fined 5.85 million euros or $6.96 million for failure to vet its clients and monitor them for money laundering and terrorist financing. So when offshore bank asks for proof of source of funds, they're not just being nosy, they're trying to survive. Okay, so what about trustee companies? The same rules apply. Trustee companies also have a responsibility to maintain high ethical standards. We conduct thorough due diligence of potential clients to ensure they are not involved in illegal activities. If they accept unethical clients, they can lose their license. I just spoke with a trustee who told me he lost his license for 3 years for failing to maintain the proper client records. And for a trust company, the license is everything. And that's one reason why the trustee companies require KYC or Know Your Client documentation. Now here at Asset Protection Planners, we've built our reputation on trust and integrity. Our team, comprised of licensed attorneys, knows that their careers hinge on ethical behavior. So they're not just following the company's policy, they're adhering to the law. Our due diligence is rigorous for that reason. We're here trying to protect our clients and ensuring we're all upholding the law. It's our responsibility, and we take it very seriously. So to wrap it up, offshore banking, asset protection services, Cook Islands trusts, and offshore LLCs are not inherently about tax evasion or aiding criminal activity. They're legitimate financial tools that, when used correctly, provide security and privacy for clients who meet the stringent legal requirements. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions or want to know more about ethical asset protection or need asset protection yourself, drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, visit assetprotectionplanners.com for more free information, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all of our content. Until next time, stay informed and stay ethical. This is The Business Guy.